Sandy and Nora's podcast.
Hey, Nora.
Hey, Sandy.
We are in space.
We're in space. Do you want to hear something crazy about that?
Tell me something wild about that.
So my partner applied at the same time as the open call that led to the guy who's in space. What's his name? Jeremy. To be the astronaut.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that. That is, you know what? That is wild. And not only did your partner apply, didn't he get pretty far in the process?
Yeah, he got into the top 100, which is great. And then he had to fill out like a really long medical questionnaire. And he got axed at the answer to his height. I mean, he would have been axed later on too. Like the guy that was chosen as an RCAF fighter pilot, which, some pretty, I think, transferable skills. But, Yeah, but you're a nerd. You must love this.
Yeah, I do love it. I'm a big nerd. I loved seeing all of the new photos. It's of the planets. It's an incredible thing. And we've spoken about space before as and space exploration as one of these incredible feats of humanity that requires a level of cooperation in both. In all of so many different things, in research, in coordinating, in construction, in getting things together, all of this, like the fact that we are able to do this is an incredible feat of what we can do or what we have been able to done in a very, very small slice of history. And I don't know, Nora. I think those times might be coming to an end.
In the United States, you mean, or like in the world?
That's a very good question. But led by the United States, so.
I got a question though for you about that. Like, I've seen people being very cynical about how this is all a stunt, how it's a big giant waste of money. Like I am often accused of being too cynical. Maybe you get that accusation as well too, but how do you square those criticisms with the fact that it is actually really cool as well that we're in space? Like, are we able to have these thoughts held together, or is there one correct way to understand space exploration?
No, I think we are able to have these thoughts together. I think it's a contradiction that exists and is a problem. I think that the critiques make sense. Whitey on the moon. I get it. It's like it is deeply frustrating to have to be struggling month to month, or not being able to afford healthcare, or struggling with basic living costs, and then see that your government is spending money going to the moon and on war and all of these things. So all of that makes sense to me. And it also makes sense to me that we would want to engage in the science and the scientific research that takes us to do space exploration. It is, to me, a contradiction that absolutely exists and doesn't have to, and should be an outrage. It is an outrage. I mean, I can appreciate the science and nerd out on it, and also be like, for fuck's sake, if we can do this, then we have to be able to support lives lived with full dignity for certainly more people in our society than we have been complacent with for so long. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How do you square it?
So, well, I mean, I'm less of a nerd, so I watched I was watching the launch on Blue Sky, and because Blue Sky is so buggy, I think they're at T-8, and I hit full screen, obviously, to get the full kind of, I don't know, experience. And full screen video for some reason has never worked for me, and I forgot that. And it just refreshed Blue Sky. And by the time I refound the feed, it was already blasted off. Yeah. So I was damn.
My favorite videos of the launch, I don't know if you've seen any of these, are like unofficial videos from people in a plane.
Oh, I love those videos.
Those?
Yes.
Those
yeah. I love that.
Are incredible. And like hearing the pilots in those planes talk about like how, like what an amazing once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to see the takeoff from that vantage point. Oh, incredible.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. And I agree with you totally. And I think that, like space exploration is pretty amazing. If you've ever had a chance to actually see a space shuttle in real life, like they're really kind of incredible. I had the chance to go to the Science and Technology Museum in Los Angeles where Endeavour is. That's not the one. No, that's the one that exploded. one of the spacecrafts is still there, and you can see it, and it's amazing. And what I think is so interesting was that when I was there, it's the United States, so at all the museums they have all these like people who have to work for free and tell you about what you're watching, and a lot of the guys who were working at the museum talking about the space shuttle actually worked on the program for NASA, and they were all talking about how depressed they were that it seemed that NASA was being defunded to then push all space exploration to SpaceX. And this would have been, it was before the pandemic, so it was probably 8 years ago now. And I didn't realize that hadn't completely been done, because this is still a NASA space launch. And that gave me a little tiny bit of hope that of course, private companies are clamoring to get into space, and the space junk that's up there, lots of it is because of private companies like SpaceX that are just, throwing their satellites up there and leaving them. But ultimately, I do think that this does remain one of the most incredible examples of global cooperation, like vaccine development and other kind of incredible public health advancements, like commercial air travel, as we talk a lot about on this podcast. So I agree. I think that we can absolutely be critical, but if people are needing a little bit of hope and a little bit of something good to hang on to, this is a really, really good thing to hang on to. And again, as you say, you can look at the pictures, marvel at them, and just know that, like, oh my God, like we have just seen the other side of the moon. Like, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. That's actually crazy. It's amazing.
It is. You know what else is wonderful?
Oh, what else?
The listeners that make this show happen.
The listeners that make the show happen. And I don't know, folks, if you have seen, but we have gotten some help with our social media, and we're posting some videos on Instagram and on TikTok. And so if you haven't checked those out, definitely go and check those out. If you have any ideas, like if you want us, I don't know, like doing the interviews with the leadership candidates for the NDP were super fun. Is there someone else I should be interviewing? I could do that. It wasn't too difficult to put together, and now we've got the support to actually distribute it. So be in touch. Who would you love to hear from? And actually, Sandy, I don't know how, I've gotten on, or I was added to like a PR list for the Senate. And it seems that like any senator that I want to talk to, I can ask questions to. So I don't know.
Oh man, we've got some interesting senators. So that could be hilarious.
It could be hilarious. That's true. And maybe we should do a whole episode on what you and I think about the Senate and the senators that we've met in our life, who are kind of something else. But we can't do any of this without your support. And so thank you this week to all new supporters of the podcast. Amazing. That is Shannon, Mark, Robert, Heather, Alexander, Rajan, Dylan, and MDR. MDR, you folks are amazing. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this podcast without you, of course.
Thank you all so, so much. So here's the thing. Earlier this year, we decided we're going to change the date that we record this podcast from Sunday to Monday because things kept happening. They made it really, really difficult for us to record on Monday. because things kept happening on Mondays. And by the time the podcast would come out, we would have missed the big news that was the start of the week. Well, it's Tuesday, April 7th, and today is the deadline between the U.S. and Iran's supposed negotiations. Depends on who you're talking to, if this is like, or what news you're listening to, if this is like something that's really happening. Trump, an hour before Nora and I started recording, has been talking about ending a civilization today. So turns out that actually 2026 is a bad year to record in, because every day something new and insane is happening. So by the time you listen to this podcast, clearly a lot of things will have changed. So hopefully the thing that changed is that Trump's bluff has been called, and that's what makes this a little out of time step with what you folks are paying attention to. But my goodness, what a fucking outrageous new approach to war, I guess, we find ourselves in 2026.
Yeah, and it's not immaterial that this is a week where evangelical Christians especially, but just Christians in general, would have been celebrating Easter on Monday, making Tuesday a new Monday for Donald Trump. And we wake up this morning to the promise that an entire civilization is going to be wiped out. And I think, we don't have to talk too much about what is happening or going to happen, because we don't know. But I do think it is so fascinating that here we are in the fever pitch of a conflict that was started by Israel and the United States against a country that Canada has for the last decade been increasing its anti-rhetoric towards and removing its connections to, making it such that we are effectively useless on the international stage to try and play any kind of mediating or positive role, because that would go against every single thing that Canadian governments have been saying for more than a decade about Iran and how evil they are and how they're our enemy and blah, blah, blah. We've seen some pretty tepid responses from Anita Anand, our foreign affairs minister, and of course, Mark Carney himself. And I don't know, Sandy, I find it just so fascinating to think about the role that Canada has played in mediating international conflicts in the last 80 years, and some of it's all total mythologizing and not necessarily true. But some of it is true. I mean, the role that Canada played during the Suez Canal crisis was real, and having that kind of respect in the world to play a mediating role. And here we find ourselves on the brink of potentially an explosive world-encompassing conflict, and all Canada can do is basically be a lapdog of the United States. It's pretty sad.
It's very sad. And I mean, I think the way things have played out this week and last week, the last few weeks, are again proof of how weird it has been that the government, Carney, Anand, have just lent credence to the Trump administration as their first step in many of the activities that Trump has taken, and then have found themselves in awkward situations where they've had to backpedal. And this is no exception. I mean, we're in a place now where it's clear that, like Israel, the United States does not care about harming civilians and about destroying civilian infrastructure. That is part of how they are engaging in this war. And the fact that, Trump is a liar. Trump is a giant liar, and I cannot. One of the weirdest things about Trump as a figure in the United States government as it exists right now is watching the media and people who are trying to analyze what's happening try to give it logic on the other end. try to say, like, yes, this series of events that has no logic at all and is in fact contradictory to itself. Here is the potential logic behind it. It's been really, really weird to watch, and to see at the beginning of the war, the media lend credence to this idea that Trump cared about the protesters and is doing this to protect people who are in harm's way by the regime in Iran, and now see where we're at today, where there's literally a promise to end a civilization, to go after desalination plants, to go after critical infrastructure, to go after bridges, to go after the things that literally keep a civilization alive. Well, it's like, can we finally admit that we are seeing a madman who is running a country with a death cult? Can we admit that now and start to talk about it in the way that it deserves to be talked about?
No. The Emperor Has No Clothes is a timeless piece of literature for a reason.
You know what, Nora? Small side note, a little side quest, if you will. I have made that reference to many people in my life in the last few weeks, and I have been shocked by how many people have never heard of this parable, of this story. Like, what?
Really?
Yes. This is not a universally known thing. Maybe this has something to do with American education. As you know, I'm in the United States. I was literally at a lunch last week where I was arguing with people who I know from not politics about how Trump is not, in fact, a genius, and you don't have to give him that power in your life. It's weird out here, people. It's really strange. And yeah, it's increasingly I'm noticing that many people who I know have never heard of that story.
That's a weird story to not have heard about in this era, especially because it's very useful. Like,
yep.
I don't know if you saw the speech that Trump made from, I don't know, whatever that balcony is at the White House, and he's like talking about annihilating Iran beside the Easter Bunny.
I read that news. I did not see it. That sounds ridiculous. What?
It's pretty weird. Yeah, it's pretty weird. But yeah, I think a lot about how Canada has been following Trump's orders, whether like explicitly or implicitly. And this goes back not just this mandate, but the mandate previous to this one as well. Like the whole conflict that we found ourselves with Meng Wanzhou from Huawei and China was all because Trump asked Canada to arrest an executive of a company that was violating the bullshit sanctions that the United States had on Iran. And like proof that nothing the West has done towards Iran has actually been to soften the regime or help Iranians overthrow the regime or anything like that is just in how hands off Canada has become in having any kind of diplomatic relationships or ties at all with Iran, which never made any sense to me given how many Iranians are in this country. Like to have closed our embassies, like that was step one. And that happened, 15 years ago now, where you force Iranians to go to Turkey to do all of the embassy stuff that they have to do if they're going to come to Canada, including submitting biometric information. Like that right there was nuts, because it means that we don't have formal channels to a country. I mean, it also it also kind of created in Canadians' minds this ridiculous idea that having diplomatic ties with the country is to support its leadership, which is literally not the point of diplomatic ties or diplomacy at all. But that was under under Harper. And under Trudeau, he didn't change that. In fact, he made it worse. Then fast forward, many years and Israel bombs our embassies that haven't been opened in Iran, and the Canadian government barely sneezes about it. Like, okay. And so here we are witnessing this crisis. And the only thing that we see from our government is to follow along what Trump wants us to do on our military spending. Is to increase our military spending by leaps and bounds, by doing that by defunding our public services, allowing private companies to operate within Canada, especially within our healthcare system, as solutions to the collapsing and crumbling healthcare system that we have. And then even worse, I don't know if you saw this news today and yesterday and this week or whatever, we have governments that are promising to make the access to information regime in this country, whether it's at the provincial level, like from Doug Ford, or at the federal level, even harder to access certain kinds of information. They're limiting what they're saying is happening, and they're limiting what our right as citizens to see certain things happening, whether that is through access to information, whether that's through asking for comment from different ministries that are now saying we're only going to respond to government recognized journalism, which is like, the hell are you talking about? And there's outrage, of course, from among journalists, and there's some democracy watchers that are saying this is unacceptable. But Carney marches on with a tremendous amount of support. And, within a week, he's probably going to have his majority government, because we've got these 3 by-elections happening. And 2 of them are for sure going to go Liberal. And the third, I think, my money is on the Bloc, but it could go Liberal too.
I did see that news. It's really incredible that is absolutely unacceptable. And the thing is, in this fog of crazy making news environment, it's like they can get away with something like that, and they are. And it's just remarkable how much closer to what I expected of Pierre Poilievre Mark Carney has turned out to be, and in fact, how much closer to Trumpian politics. I mean, we are entering a phase of global politics in which the government in the West, governments are more and more detached from people. And in Canada, it's always been a little weird how little in power we have over information we have access to, and to make that to restrict that even more at a time when we clearly need more verifiable information from verifiable sources, at a time when, like, the truth is up in the air. It's a pretty incredible step to take to try to restrict access to information, and really reprehensible.
Totally. And it's just so typical. And God, like, I know, like, it feels like everything's bad, we can't change anything. But there are so many Canadians who should be outraged by what Carney is doing, and who probably would be outraged by what Carney is doing if they knew about it. And I say that because this past weekend I posted about the fact that the federal government is closing research farms. So there's a couple of research farms all over Canada that are managed by federal departments. And the idea of these research farms is to develop new farming techniques based on the climate in which the farming center is located, and to make recommendations to farmers for how to maximize crops or optimize soil or whatever, right? I mean, it's research. That's whatever. That's it. And the Carney government's closing these farms. So one of the farms is in Quebec City. I was talking to someone whose friend works for one of them. And, like, aside from the fact that this closes a center where highly trained individuals, often with PhDs, can go for a career after, which you need to give people that have a PhD a career after, or else your entire research program in your country is going to collapse. So, okay, so we're closing down these farms. It's eliminating all of these jobs. And the people that work there are either being forced into early retirement environment, which is going to cost the system more. It's going to cause them tremendous stress because it's not going to be enough money for them to live from like for the rest of their lives. Like if they're 55 or even younger, that's ridiculous. There's not too many jobs that are hiring people with that level of skill at that age any longer. And in one case, I know someone who's being forced to decide, is he going to retire or is he going to be forced to move to Ottawa? And it's just like, what are you doing this for? Why are you doing this? So I tweeted about this and people had responded to me saying that they didn't even know. And I thought this was kind of like pretty well covered by the press. I mean, I'm not going to blame the mainstream media on this one at all. Like I've seen many stories about closing the farms. But that's one of many things that they're eliminating. I mean, they are not committing to new funding for rural food programs for Indigenous kids. They're getting rid of prison librarians. They're doing so much damage to the state. I mean, you can't not do damage to the state if you're going to pull, anywhere between $60 and $80 billion out of the federal government. And Carney's never been more popular. And so like, this is very confounding as a left-wing person. Where are people getting their news to then continue to believe that what Carney is doing is good? Because I think that if you actually look at the full force of what Carney is promising to do, it's impossible to believe that what he is doing is good. But I don't know. I feel like there's like a really strong liberal bend in the influencer world and people online who have no problem saying, "Oh, everything Carney is doing is good because we need to defend ourselves and our sovereignty and our military is important. And so let's pour all this money into the military." And he's finding efficiencies within the existing like government apparatus. Even though if you look at it, it is totally Trumpian. It's totally Trumpian. And the only thing about Carney that's not Trumpian is that he's not a complete fucking idiot.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. The reality too of how they have decided to spend their money in this time in like support of the war machine is really going to have dire effects as this oil shock that is in our future, that is coming, is gonna hit our populations and populations around the world. I mean, so much that people have spoken about over the years when it comes to climate change and how the governments should be investing in renewable energy has really like come to the fore right now as people in societies like ours who are dependent on oil because of the refusal of our governments to move away from this resource is now going to be, our dependency is going to threaten the ways that we live in the coming weeks as the oil shock reaches our shores. Like, this is a really, really bad situation that, I mean, is the government going to make any changes with how they've decided to spend their money? Because, like, look, it's going to impact people in the ways that we live, in our pocketbooks, in how, whether we can afford food. Like, this is there's so many different ways to discuss this war, and this is one of the ways that it's going to affect us here at home. And in a situation where the government has taken so much money out of public services and put it right into the military, I'm just like looking at this like, oh my God, you're spelling disaster overseas, and you're really, really, really spelling it out at home as well. And it just seems like they don't fucking care. They don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. They certainly don't seem to care. And I was just looking at Anita Anand's Twitter account where she does, make announcements and stuff. I had to scroll back past a lot of news. Actually, one piece of news that I did not see. Did you see that there's been a new UN coordinated set of troops sent to Haiti, but this time they are soldiers from Chad.
What? No, I didn't see that at all.
I feel like Chad needs their soldiers as the civil war in Sudan has been spilling over the border with Chad, and they've got their own issues. Like, what on, and of course, Anand is like, welcome Chadian soldiers to Haiti. It's like, what on earth is going on? Are you kidding me? Like, yeah, Canada welcomes the arrival of the first troops from Chad supporting the Gang Suppression Force, a UN-backed mission in Haiti. This will restore security and stability. Like, I'm sorry, I have to suspend so much of what I know of what's going on in the world to believe that.
That is very, 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 very strange.
Very strange. I mean, the Kenyan soldiers did not work, but Kenya is like far more put together than Chad is right now, and they couldn't pull it off. But okay, anyway, fine. I had to go back to April 1st to see anything on Anita Anand's thread, Twitter thread, or whatever, feed. Feed's the word I'm looking for, to talk about anything related to Iran. And what it is like an interview she did with, I think it looks like, I don't know, Global News maybe, or something, maybe not even. And just saying like, you know, she's joining her British counterpart, Yvette Cooper, to advance diplomatic efforts to open the Strait of Hormuz. Yvette Cooper being from the United Kingdom. Like, nothing else. Like, the gas situation has already arrived. Like, I filled up yesterday in a car that I would have expected to be full at about $48, $50, and it cost me $80. Like, it's already hitting Canadians, and we get nothing. Like, Anita Anand's only job is to comment on what's happening in the world, and nothing in about a week, as things have gotten to a fever pitch. That tells you everything about the Canadian government's willingness to do anything, willingness to say anything, to maybe tap Trump on the shoulder and say, hey, your closest ally's not really digging this. Like, give me a break. While we have a little bit of a model in Claudia Sheinbaum in Mexico, who has been trying to get supplies to Cuba while the U.S. has also embargoed them. I mean,
the way that this is going to impact people on the ground is really scary. Of course, we're also seeing that here in the United States, the price of gas has gone up significantly. And then, like, looking at the news around the world of the measures that certain other countries who have already started experiencing, who would have received oil by now from oil that comes through the Strait of Hormuz that haven't been able to get it, and seeing the measures that countries are taking on around the world, like, it's starting to look like the pandemic era. Work from home orders, restrictions on how long the work week is, what's the word I'm looking for? Pleas for citizens to stop using personal transportation vehicles and instead use public transportation. I mean, like, this is it's already impact. Like, if you haven't seen this stuff, I mean, take a look at what's happening around the world, and the full impact of this has not yet reached North America, but it will, and so. To not hear anything from the government on this stuff is really concerning. But, like, also, what is the plan? Okay, you decided to support this. Remember, the first statements from Carney and Anand were in support of what America was doing in their attack on Iran. Okay, so great, you support this. Where's the plan that you came up with for how bad this could get, for how you're going to protect and support your own country? What's the plan? What's going on? Like, what are you doing? What is the plan for what you're going to do when all of these these promises that Trump is making about breaking international law, promises that would require Canada to act given the UN conventions that we are signatory to? Like, what's your plan there? Is there a plan there? What is happening? What are we doing? It's a pretty scary situation, and I don't know, Nora. It just I didn't think that like a potential World War III would look and feel this dumb. I just didn't. I'm like looking around like this is absolutely bonkers. Like I just, I think I told you that that NPR has started to use way more, I would say, accurate and flagrant language around Trump. Like I listen to NPR in the morning, and they've now just started calling him obscene and like just using clearer language to refer to him. But that's not something that's happening like everywhere. And I just, it really, like the dissonance between like, okay, these are the people that are running shit, and this is my life. It just like feels like such a wider and wider gap. And I just didn't think, I mean, governments are making AI memes while they're at war with one another. I just didn't think it would be this dumb, Nora. I didn't think it would be this dumb.
No, but I have to say Iran's meme game is like pretty good. Pretty good.
I mean, yeah, in a dystopic way.
I don't know if you saw this, but there was like a list of the drugs that the White House is like regularly ordering, like hard drugs. And it seems like it's like one of the most drugged out administrations in the history of the United States, which is kind of interesting because
Sorry, I mean, what do you mean the hard drugs? Go back. Explain this to me. What?
Like literally there's a list like tons of ketamine, tons of amphetamines, tons of barbiturates. It's like they are drugged out, which makes sense, right? Because when you're using a lot of drugs, sometimes you can lose touch with reality. It's just not usually the case that you also are the person that knows the nuclear codes. Although, I mean, I don't think that Trump probably literally knows the nuclear codes. I think he's probably got them written down on a Post-it note somewhere. And, I think that, yeah, like I actually saw people saying like, this probably should be a bigger story. Like not in a way to shame drug users, but like, if the entire administration is being fueled by drugs, like that seems like a bit of a headline, and also very reminiscent of the Nazis. Like the Nazis were heavy into amphetamines, and this is something that we know about. They were using drugs, hard drugs, a lot, like crazy. We are in like the decadent, dying days of the United States empire, and so this kind of thing all makes sense. This is all stuff that we can see from history. It's all stuff that, there's a logic to it. And you're right, looking around at Canada, it's like, I don't know, like if you were waiting for the moment for rapid transition off of oil, here it is. Here it is, because Canadians need oil to run the things that they rely on every day, from home heating to their cars. And it might be threatened. Like if the Strait of Hormuz does not open up for the United States, it will have enormous impacts on us in North America, obviously. Nope, Carney's not doing that. What's Carney's biggest policy announcement of the last couple of days? He's going to be giving home builders, $200,000 in savings, quote unquote, to not pay taxes, which is just defunding the state further. What fucking good is having a house if you can't get healthcare, right? That's literally what the calculus is. And no, it's going to be business as usual. Let's do the things that we have been doing for a very long time. Let's give Canadians even less access to the information that they deserve. Let's rely on a media that is completely captured by liberal logic and that has marginalized every kind of voice of criticism in this country, at least in English. And, what's going to be the impact of that? The impact of that is that Carney can announce up to $80 billion in cuts and Canadians can still give him the benefit of the doubt. part of this also points to just how deeply unpopular Pierre Poilievre is, which, I mean, give that guy an award, because that's a level of unpopularity that's kind of impressive. But it's not good news. And the thing that I think is even the most distressing was that during the NDP leadership race, none of the candidates managed to break out of the very narrow discussion cone of the NDP. So like NDP members and supporters and like the left, but they didn't find a path to reach Canadians who probably voted Carney, but maybe held their nose while voting for Carney. And I'm really, really worried that the formula isn't working, that there needs to be some kind of new formula adopted, because breaking this consensus that has seemingly formed around how great Carney is, when we consider that the emperor has no clothes, it's not great. It's not great. And it just points to the fact that we need to be trying more radical paths, more creative paths, reaching out to people that are not being talked to, which just like is as simple as getting a whiteboard out and listing all the people that are not present at your town halls or that are not present in your coalitions or whatever, and making a plan to actually go out to them, because this is going to get worse really quickly, especially if by the time you hear from us next, we're able to say that Carney has a majority.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to end this episode off on a hopeful note, because there's a lot to look out at and to feel dread and to feel like, oh my God, I have no power over this. Like, what am I going to do? But I don't want us to leave you there, because you do have power over this, and I want to remind you of that. And so there's a couple of things that I want to point to really quickly. One is that this weekend I went to a cultural festival that was out in Culver City in Los Angeles. If you're familiar with Los Angeles, it was on the Culver City steps. It was a Brazilian festival, and it was just people dancing in the streets on this public square, hundreds and hundreds of people just coming together and having fun. Why do I mention this? Because those spaces, that kind of space, is critically important. The first thing that happened when I got there with some friends was somebody approached me with a clipboard. And Nora, I haven't seen someone approach me with a clipboard in so long. I was so happy. He was like, he was Gen Z. He seemed to be maybe not used to talking to people. He was clearly nervous, very, very nervous. I would coach him on a different approach if I was a trainer of some sort. But he did it. He came up to us. He asked us about whether we were registered to vote, because in California they've got a system where there's a lot of referenda, and so what he was campaigning for was for a referenda, which means that you have to be eligible to vote. He asked if we were eligible to vote. Obviously not, in my case, but then proceeded to talk about a ballot measure in California for which he was seeking support. And he had a couple of people in the crowd that were just walking around, having fun, and also just approaching people and doing the hard old school style organizing. We have to do that in this moment. We have to do that. And it is in spaces like that, where people are having fun, are looking to meet new people, are expecting to be approached, where it is the easiest, even for someone who might feel really nervous and may not be used to doing that kind of work. So that's one. Number two, I'm actually at a training for organizers right now. There's an organization that I'm not affiliated with who reached out to a number of organizations and individuals around the country and just said, look, in this time, what we need to do is to brush up on our skills, come together, put our minds together to figure out how is it that we are going to impact power. We got to do some old school things that we all know how to do. We need to do power mapping. We need to do skills mapping. We need to see where we're short on skills and where we can beef up. We need to know what we're all struggling with so we can come up with a plan. And I'm so happy to be able to contribute to that and to do that work, because it's just a reminder of what's needed for people who are new organizers, but also for people who are skilled and are looking around like, where is everybody? It's what we need to do is to come together, make sure that we have the skills, and make sure that we are growing what movements we have and understanding where power lies right now and how we can impact it. And I think that that's the kind of thing that we need to be seeing people organizing locally in their communities at this moment, where there's so much that is at stake. All of these decision makers have weaknesses. They have points of pressure that you can push, that we can push collectively and force them to make changes. And, I'm just being reminded of that this week. And I think that that is a source of hope for me. And I think it can be a source of hope for anyone who's looking around and is like, oh my gosh, how do we do this? It may seem like, can this work? This like peer-to-peer education, this talking to people in my community, this hard old school organizing, can this work in a digital age? The answer is yes, absolutely. And in fact, it continues to be the most effective thing that we can do.